Welcome back for another short vlog update here of writing crazy fragile custom pather matching and evaluation. C code of all things, not recommended, don't try it home, use a safe language, right? But the recurring subscribers might know this already from our T2 20 plus years in the making rolling release source distribution, just mostly vanilla raw Linux. Here we have wrappers. Other people compiler wrappers, or also we build stuff in the sandbox, nicely bootstrapped and cross-compiled and stuff, and we use wrappers. A lot of, I'm not sure how many other distributions do that, maybe next to zero of all the 1913 and a half or so Linux distributions. So what we do is we wrap GCC and dynamically transform command line arguments. We do that mostly to clean the optimization stuff, because all the make files and crates might have O2, O3, OS, whatever. So we filter all those out and inject what the user configured for your T2 build or our official Linux builds. And obviously we can do stuff like build everything like controlled, like not relying on fragile C flags that may or may not get used, in hard coding for each package what kind of variable names they use for C flags, which they may or may not use, and add additional stuff. So that is certainly, long story short, way more reliable, way more flexible, and so on. And we do crazy stuff like workarounds and injecting cross-compile passes of sandbox and stuff that otherwise would be even more fragile and error-prone and stuff. And so this is long implemented, 20 years in the making. And what we additionally do also, by the way, drop frames because Vodafone stocks. This is so hilarious. I need to move and whatnot. So what I had to do today is, a long time ago I implemented, so previously this was relatively hard-coded. The way this worked is that previously we had GCC wrapper insert and append and remove. So inserts at the beginning, appends at the end. This might be necessary for the order of some arguments to have the right effect, and also remove, for example, removing all LTO. In any case, by the way, should we not have no LTO? Should we not always remove LTO? Anyway, details. And so what I already, at least I think probably I did a long time ago, 10 years or so ago, is this conditional arguments, right? This is even more flexibility, right? Previously, remove, insert, add, easy, right? Relatively easy. So this conditional stuff, obviously from languages like C, means if arguments in the GCC matches this, like usually, yeah, for example, conf test is one thing. There are other things. What might they be? Probably there are some. Let's see if we wait, what do I even do here that I wanted? Does it even match something? For what else would we use that? Ah, yeah, right, for example, as needed. So this are linker. All right, often we use it also here. Maybe you should take public transport and not block the streets. Damn it. Mobility in the 21st century. So usually, for example, initially we had to like help stuff because some GCC also, yeah, bugs, right? GCC hangs if you run help with pipe or stuff, or otherwise just avoiding warnings or errors if you add linker options. Maybe even did this always? I'm not even sure if this is a warning or an error. Anyway, this kind of stuff. And so what we need now is, with LTO, it turns out, like when we benchmark this, right? Pro tip: benchmark, also optimization or micro optimization, always benchmarks the stuff, because otherwise you do random stuff without any much or even negative effect. And we, of course, years ago, we benchmarked stuff, not only in 2006 or so for the Linux magazine with GCC versions, but also now we're on this YouTube channel, figuring out what options even produce preferable performance results and which not. And I didn't even realize, I always, like, yeah, I didn't benchmark the last year, shame on me, what LTO really had. Also, okay, I didn't even use it in production because it didn't work well enough. But now that we got that mostly under control, I benchmarked this, and to my surprise, just LTO had basically zero effect, at least for C programs. and only with LT or even GCC documented that, right? The website there of GCC fame, they even documented LTO as link time optimization as alone doesn't have the biggest effects, and even the GCC freaking manual recommends whole program optimization. And that broke even more, as it usually does here, live on our epic thread-ripping channel. And what I needed for that now is it broke even more conf tests. And so previously I already only LTO'd here, because usually, as crazy as it is, right, as I mentioned probably in yesterday's or so vlog, I find it really crazy how fragile not only GCC or Clang, but definitely LTO is. You would think, like, if stuff compiles and you add new technology like link time optimization, it would still, like what previously compiled would still compile and stuff. But two things, often, for example, link time optimization or link time and whole program optimization usually in libraries optimizes all the external visible symbols away. Amazing achievement. Whether that's implementation defined and improper use in setlib and setstyle and stuff, and libxml and so on, and GMP, MPFR and ISL, and probably most things has to be seen. I will research that another day. But for now, basically that means also, as per the yesterday's also video, if we create like in T2 building all the packages, if we link a shared library, then it's like, yeah, don't use whole program. And I explain this because that means I now need significantly more complex conditional arguments. Like previously, I only needed if some argument is in there, like conf test, to not do that for all the conf tests or other compile and link stuff. Now I need basically, if it's not a conf test and we are not linking, because now I needed, like until today, I couldn't like match on two arguments, right? With this, you see stuff so broken and implementation defined and undefined behaviors that you need so complex wrapper constructs and sandbox instrumentation stuff that to make at least somewhat use out of this, right? You could of course go manually through 4,000 plus, or as some BSD package sources, allegedly 20,000 or so packages. Maybe I should shamelessly steal from their package database, and anyway, that's for another video. So I obviously don't want to go through 4,000 packages and instrument all of them of what does and not does, who program optimize and stuff. So for me, I determined not conf tests because they usually break. I even have new ones, even find utils, core utils, and UTF-8 proc or libUTF-8 whatever library. For example, what happens is they optimize all the tests away, right? And then the conf tests don't run because, or like, yeah, even two conf tests, and then it doesn't link because even for white character, right? As crazy as it is, I could theoretically show you that, probably should I? I just wiped the log file though. But you can believe me that even conf tests don't run then with whole program. Because then, like white character, like there was one variable, like, yeah, stuff gets so much optimized away that even your conf test. I mean, and what kind of technology is it? I mean, I understand we want to optimize it. This is crazy stuff, right? We write 100,000 lines of code for the compiler to hopefully optimize most of it away, because the more optimized away, the faster. But anyway, long story short, so until today I couldn't like if conf test in the arguments or shared. I couldn't, right? This was like matching, like here with this question mark operator in my conditional wrapper stuff here. I couldn't match one thing. And even this wildcard stuff is new from some years ago, maybe 5 years or so. So today I made it even more crazy. I didn't implement it fully. I only implemented it as much as needed for today. And this is here's our command line wrapper. I have probably around since 2000, whatever. And here's this evaluation conditional. Also, I somehow talked to some garbage. Eval conditional arc. So how this works is we get env of wrapper stuff, and we have this environment prefix because we have GCC and other wrappers, so that is dynamically compiled here. And then we string talk this. So this to do is also from today. So this is not yet perfect because the problem is I tried it for a minute. It's like, yeah, dude, Also, recurring theme, right? C is not amazing. Don't do that at home, because it's still not amazing. Theoretically, you would want even here nesting of matching that and matching that, and it's difficult, right? Especially for spaces. What is the problem? The problem are spaces, and because usually we string talk here this environment variable. So to make it even more amazing, like properly handle complete nesting, we would need, among other things, or actually the nesting, it's two things. It's nesting as a whole, because for that I would need to implement scanning and matching even more operator proceedings here, and for that to fully have effect, like it wouldn't even help me, like just nesting alone wouldn't help me here, like nesting conditional operators. In this case I need spaces, and for spaces that is the next problem, because we string talk here all those arguments, because previously we didn't have such a complexity, right? We had argument for argument, and previously we had insert or remove all those space delimited arguments, and we would need to handle some form of escaping, and we obviously can't use string talk anymore. Sorry, recurring theme, C is not amazing, and we have drop frames, whatever, also not amazing. Anyway, probably can only live stream over 4G and 5G. It is set. I hope the video comes mostly through. So anyway, so mostly to document what crazy complexity is needed. Without the wrapper, you would need to custom handle all this stuff. For example, removing LTO from the configure script, which in general I also don't find ideal, that you need to configure differently than compiling, because this stuff breaks too much. Implementing conditional arguments here was relatively straightforward. So the way this works here is we manually scan. So this kind of string talk. I'm not really sure why I didn't use string talk. We probably theoretically could use string talk here, I would say. So somehow this is, or is it? Anyway, would need to grommate it or this. Not sure why I open coded that. It's basically some poor man's string talk for scan for question mark there, and then scan for an optional left and right hand. I think I implemented this here, optional, for if you don't need. So this is like left hand and right hand side of the colon separator there, and so this is all the same. And what is new then is like if match this is basically new. Here recursion of tail recursion of eval condition arc. So today I only implement this for the right hand side, which I need today. As I said, implementing that for the left hand side, so basically question mark, like conditional question mark operator, left hand side, like true and false side of the conditional colon operator. So today we only scan for the first one. That means the left hand side can't be nested. That is all I need for today. I added here to do support nesting left hand side expressions too, which is tricky, and because then there is the thing of imbalance. But probably to support this would be, I would need to think about this, how to even write the specification for this to make sense. Thankfully, all I need for that today is right hand side, and that works. So what that means is it allows this crazy stuff like matching conf test, then nothing, otherwise LTO. And additionally, because we can't handle spaces yet there, we would need some handle some escaping, probably for another day. Basically for another day when I need that in 5 years or so. And additionally, so matching that, it's a little bit inefficient of doing that again. So that is, if conf test again, then left hand side here is a zero length string, right, between the question mark and the colon, and then right hand side for not conf test, then match again, right? And that I tested that already, that worked. Obviously, theoretically, ideally we would need a test suite also for this stuff. So right hand side, because we can't have spaces here, right? So that is the right hand side again, matching new shared dash shared there. If we have that, then nothing, otherwise a full program. So that works, that fixes those conf tests that failed quite a lot of climate emergency, analog COVID virus emergency. It's like, yeah, big city life, right? Why is there so much stuff going on? Yeah, welcome to a capital in 2022. Between overheat and COVID, you get your emergency cases covered. Anyways, that works beautifully. As you see, we built here already, also previous video, we built here GCC 12.2. I guess we can commit that already, and then also commit that here. So that was here. I changed some comments. Also, I had to rewrite this also. So I had here previously another pro tip. I would say usually I would recommend to not modify variables. So previously I decremented argc and incremented the argv pointer here for this conditional matching. The problem is now, so previously this was a while argc decrement here and then incrementing argv, iterating over all the arguments. But now we want to recursively tail recursive call this again. So then I need the original argc and argv. So I actually would say in general I would recommend a more readable, I would call this more readable for also in C++ or more modern C. We could have C99 or whatever that is, C++ kind of scoping here. I would usually prefer that, but yeah, you know, whatever. Also for variable visibility and limiting the scope. But the difference is now we have here argvi, and I would in general call that more readable of indexing into arrays. Just another pro tip. And I had to modify that today for having the original Corley arguments here for re-evaluating that. So that was a nice programming exercise. It's the usual stuff you do. And also, obviously I added to-dos here of like, yeah, theoretically, by the way, we should eventually handle white space escapes here. And there I modified the spacing. I had some old-fashioned spacing that triggered me a little bit. And here too, by the way, did I append? Maybe I didn't. So I just removed some white spaces. In general, I don't recommend that. The most recurring theme here also. I only do that because I don't have too many changes and I don't want additional white space changes just for this. Slightly wonder, did I eval handle here? Do I even that? Here we have that. Did I? Apparently I forgot to add that here, I would say. Although theoretically before that delimiter equals, did I had that before that. I just copy and pasted that wrong. Yeah, so even I sometimes need to write C code, even fragile or whatever you want to call that. Although to be, did we have here remove different string? This is not conditional, right? Maybe I should check that. This is all eval conditional. Yeah. Although to be fair, I mean, you could do that in C++. To be fair, this is really low level, right? This is a LD SO preload shared object that theoretically maybe nowadays we should do that with eBPF in the Linux kernel for not being, because right now the stuff can evade that if they manually unset the LD preload, which we're not dealing, their famous last words, we're not dealing with malicious code here, we are only dealing with malicious broken and regression open source code. So it's not like we have an attack vector, except if upstream people would want to intentionally harm our tiny little T2 distribution hobby here. But yeah, it is of course for security you would need to do that in more reliable sandboxing ways and not in this light, wide and fast Although to be fair, 18 or so years ago there was not eBPF, so that probably is a fair thing. I also did I port that? I still need to port some things, at least a file list wrapper to macOS, because we obviously want to support more homebrew on macOS. So yeah, that's basically it for this video. As you see, so previously setlib failed. Yeah, for setlib we need the shared. If they're shared, then not LTO whole program. So far it works beautifully. Still not 100% convinced. It's also crazy, right, that you can't apparently whole program link time optimize shared objects, because then all your external visible symbols are optimized, or like most of your shared object library is optimized away. Still you need to search attribute export external visibility, external stuff. But in any case, even if attribute visibility external would fix that, I'm not going through 4,000 or whatever crappy libraries of all of glib and libxml and stuff and attributes and stuff. If upstream can't do that, then you'll whatever have better things to do. Anyway, well, just wanted to share this story a little bit of. I hope you learned something maybe from the C code. Otherwise, enjoyed this anyway, especially if you're running T2 Linux at home on your P3 SGI MIPS or MIPS Linux or UltraSpark Linux. What else do we have? Alright, we need to be careful what we commit for GCC to commit this in this atomic ways here. Why is this is because I even did this wrong. So yeah, there is your GCC update for playing along at home. As always, I hope you learned something from this interesting. Don't forget to share and subscribe. Patreon or GitHub, YouTube membership, sponsor stuff if you liked it. And otherwise, a new ISO, LTO program, latest GCC and so on, for testing latest and greatest T2 advancements coming to our mirror hopefully tonight. With that, hope to see you soon, and otherwise have a wonderful day or night.